Welcome to this podcast of Sound Off from September 11th, 2020, with your host, Nate Loucks. Nate's guest today is Pat Hackett, candidate for the House of Representatives for the state of Indiana. Now here's your host, Pastor Nate Loucks.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Sound Off. I am so glad you're with us today on Friday, September 11th. And September 11th, obviously, is a big day. And it's a day that we all remember where we were in that moment. I remember I was in college at the time. I remember my roommate coming in and telling me something happened, turning on the TV, and just not knowing what to do and where to go from there. But we are excited to have you today to talk a little bit about, to talk a little bit with a candidate coming forward, and I'm going to introduce her real quick. Before we get started, though, let me mention that over the next few months, we're going to have many candidates for elected office in the studios. It's not only our policy, but federal law that we invite both candidates for office to appear on the show. Now, if you hear only from one candidate in one of the parties before Election Day, please know that they have been asked to come on the show, but was not able to make it happen. We do invite all candidates to come on the show. Now, we believe in open dialogue and conversation with everyone. It's the fabric of building better communities and a more informed public. My guest today is a teacher, attorney, civic leader, and a candidate for the United States House of Representatives. In addition to her role as an adjunct professor in the Notre Dame Law School, she has maintained a long career in family law, healthcare law, and advocacy as a trial attorney. She earned a BA in government and theology, an MA in theology, and a JD for a Juris Doctorate from the University of Notre Dame. Go Irish. It's my honor to welcome to Sound Off candidate for the United States House of Representatives, Pat Hackett. Welcome, Pat. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, great. Now, if you have a question and you're listening, you are welcome to call or text our Liquor Vault on air line at 219-362-0522. It comes right into me in the studio. Or you can email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle. Now, again, we did talk about it's 9/11. Where were you when 9/11 happened?
You know, Nate, where I was at St. Mary's College. That morning, I was actually teaching an introduction to theology course. And of all things, what we were talking about was the problem of evil, and we were talking about God. And I was teaching when the first plane hit. And when I went down into the faculty lounge, the television was on. And then I saw the second plane hit. And I can assure you that that deeply informed the conversation in my class as the course went forward. Mm-hmm. And, I'll never forget, too, one of the big questions for the students the next week was, where is God? Yeah. After that kind of experience. And what we found ourselves focused on, I just want to say this, and I'm very mindful of those who lost loved ones on that day, and I'm so deeply grateful for our first responders. But one thing I found myself focusing on with the students is, if you're looking for God in this moment, look to those first responders who went in out of love. Look to the people on those planes who, in their last act, called their loved ones to say they love them. Yeah. And that's where God was in that moment, and that is where God is with us now in this moment in our history right now as a nation, in our current tragedy of COVID-19. Sure.
So tell me a little bit, Pat. Why did you throw your name in the ring here? Why are you running for United States House of Representatives?
I'm running for the House of Representatives because I really believe that this is how I can best serve this nation at this time. I ran in the midterms, and I'm running again. If you said a little bit about my background, I'm well prepared in my training and my education in government and the law and also theology to serve the good people of this district and of this nation. And one of the things I deeply believe, which is a theme of my campaign, is that we have to reclaim the core commitment of this nation, and that is a belief in the dignity and justice for all people. Mm-hmm. It's really the founding commitment of this nation, and we've lost sight of that. And so I want to vigorously, as the representative of the people of this district, reclaim reclaim that core commitment. And I'm also running specifically for this office. I'm not just running for any political office, because the House of Representatives is the people's house. And I think it's essential that the people of this nation reclaim their voice and values in government, including in Washington. And with respect to this district, I want to bring the goodness, the good values, the goodness of this district, of these people, of our people, to Washington. And our nation will benefit, and the people of this district will benefit with an actual representative.
Sure. All right, let's get to some of our callers. We do take calls in texts and emails. If you want to talk to our candidate today, Pat Hackett, you're welcome to call or text the Liquor Vault on Air line at 219-362-0522. You're also welcome to email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle. It'll come right to me, and I would be honored to ask your question. So let's get to the callers. Hello, how are you? Welcome to Sound Off.
Fine, sir. How are you? Fine. How are you?
I'm great. What's your question, buddy?
Thank you for coming on, ma'am, and taking our questions. My question is, if elected, are you prepared to go against party lines, against Nancy Pelosi, and vote for the people who work and pay taxes in this country instead of supporting the rioters and looters, which is what they've been doing? Thank you.
Thanks. So, it's a good question in that, what do you think about, obviously bipartisanism and independent, kind of electorate?
I think it's essential that, and thank you for the question, it's an important one, because right now we have, on both sides of the aisle, too much party over the best interests of the country. I will bring, I'm a Democrat, and I will bring, though, a commitment to all the people of this district and represent the interests of the people of this district. And I'm deeply committed to a bipartisan approach. As an attorney, I know how to negotiate, and I'll bring that talent as an advocate to my service in the legislature. I do want to just say very specifically something from my history that might be helpful for you to be aware of, is that although I'm a lifelong Democrat, I like to say that there are Republicans I love deeply. My mom, who I revered, was appointed to the federal bench by Ronald Reagan and was a Republican, as was my father. He was a Kennedy Democrat who became a Republican. So I understand bipartisanship from the heart as well as from the head, and I'll bring that spirit to the service of this district.
Thanks so much, and thanks for calling. Let's get to another caller. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on Sound Off. How are you? All right. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Yeah, I'm curious as to what your feelings are towards Second Amendment, and what do you think? Are you in favor of confiscating guns, or are you in favor of letting the people have their freedoms and be able to own and possess firearms legally? Just want to know how you stand on that. Thank you.
Thanks so much for calling. Kenneth, what is your stance on Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment is an essential part of our Constitution, and we have our rights under the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms and to own firearms. And so I absolutely will defend Second Amendment rights. I also will defend First Amendment rights. And those are rights right now that are deeply under assault in this nation, as are absolutely critical and fundamental to the preservation of our union. So I absolutely support Second Amendment rights and First Amendment rights.
Great. If you have a question or a comment for our candidate here today, Pat Hackett, you're welcome to call or text in on the Liquor Vault on Air line at 219-362-0522. You're also welcome to email me at soundoff@967 The Eagle, and I'd be happy to read your question as well. If you text or email, it comes right into me in the studio. Let's take another caller. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I got a question for Mrs. Hackett. What do the people who fall through the cracks for disabilities, that they're in pain so much that it's hard for them to work, what do they do as far as to get the representation for Social Security disability? That's my question. If she could answer it, I'd listen.
Great question. Thanks so much for calling.
You know, you're focusing, and I'm so grateful for this question, on something very important in the life of our country right now, and that is we need leaders and we need representatives, and I will be one of those representatives who is committed to the common good of the people of this district. And when I say dignity and justice for all, I mean everybody. Nobody is left behind. No one is excluded from the table. And this is really important. You're focusing right now on Social Security, whether it's Social Security retirement income or disability benefits. This is a big difference between the current representative, Jackie Walorski, and myself. She's on record of wanting to privatize Social Security. We have a situation right now where the current president is defunding Social Security right now. This is not a future act. This is occurring by not having withholding of payroll taxes. I absolutely oppose that action and support the public good. And we need to expand Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and the public good, including not allowing anyone with disabilities to fall between the cracks as you've described. So this is a huge difference right now between the current representative and myself. And I am appalled by the defunding of Social Security currently happening.
All right, let's take one more call before break. You've got Pat Hackett here today with me on Sound Off. I'm honored to have you. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you? Hello? Hello? All right. Hello, you're on Sound Off.
Hello, is that me?
Yep, that's you, buddy.
Yeah, I wondered if what her stance is on free college for everyone and free health insurance. And if she is for that, do all the rest of us that paid our own way get reparations?
All right. Great question. I'll ask the candidate.
Well, with respect to education, I support public education. Let me just start there. And, a democracy needs an educated electorate. And my starting point is actually early childhood education. We need strong early childhood education, middle school, the STEM sciences, high school, and then also we need affordable college education for those who are on that track. But also I think we need robust funding of the vocational arts, the trades. We need a huge infrastructure rebuild. People need sustainable wages. And so it's not simply, my focus is not simply college, it's also the trades and making sure that we have the workforce that is equitably compensated for work and that we can all flourish and have the infrastructure rebuild that we need.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Candidate. When I was looking at your website, I did notice that you do have a lot on there about trade schools, and just why is that so important for you, or why did you think it was so important to put on your campaign?
Well, because I don't think it's an either or. And the trades are huge because I'm a big supporter of organized labor and unions. And actually, if you look at our country right now, the stratification, the separation of wealth, the very, very wealthy, and then the loss of the middle class, you can tie that directly to the loss of the influence of American workers, and that is by the lack of support for unions. So the nonsense name of a right-to-work state, that's very ironic. American workers flourish with the right to organize, and the federal government, Congress, has a critical role to play in supporting organized labor. I was born in Detroit. I grew up at a time when I grew up in the company of a robust middle class. We will not have a middle class in this country unless we get the worker back at the table through organized labor. It actually supports family values and the virtuous life. When you look at the trades and how you take care of new workers and workers in retirement, that is the virtuous life. Those are family values.
Well, I want to thank you so much for listening today. We're going to go to a break real quick, but if you have a question or a comment for our candidate, Pat Hackett, candidate for the United States Congress in the Indiana 2nd District, you're welcome to call or text the Liquor Vault on Air line at 219-362-0522 or email us at soundoff@967 The Eagle. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Welcome back, friends. This is Sound Off, and we have Pat Hackett with us today, candidate for the United States Congress in Indiana's 2nd District. If you have a question or a comment for the candidate, for Pat Hackett, you're welcome to call or text the Liquor Vault on Air line at 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. We do have some text questions coming in I want to get to. Here's one. Will Pat be willing to actually meet with the people in her district?
Absolutely. In fact, that is a duty, an obligation. It will be my privilege to meet with the people of our district. You know, that's another big difference between Jackie Walorski and myself. Jackie hasn't held a town hall since 2013, and I have had more town halls just in the context of running for Congress, even in the context of COVID-19, than Jackie has during her whole tenure. So it will be my obligation. Part of that difference is because I do not accept corporate PAC monies. Jackie is kept in office by outside financial interests. The money which supports my campaign comes from all of you. I already will be term limited. You're either going to like how I serve you and keep me in Congress, or you're going to vote me out, and I'm not going to have a whole treasure chest of outside money keeping me in office. That's why Jackie doesn't meet with the people of this district, because she doesn't have to. You'll see she'll have lots of commercials on the lead up to November 3rd. That's coming from outside, like fossil fuel industry, insurance, other industries like that, not the people of this district. I have more individuals contributing than Jackie does. I'm going to be your representative, not outside financial interests.
All right, let's get back to our callers. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you?
Well, how you doing, Pastor?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Okay. Pat, I am so glad to hear you speak up for Social Security. More seniors need to start paying attention to this. I read 2 articles a couple weeks back where the chief actuary of the Social Security Administration says that if this plan goes through, that Social Security will be permanently and irreparably out of service come, I think it was 2023. Have you heard that as well?
Thanks for calling. Pat, what is your view on Social Security, and again, kind of what the caller's talking about here?
Yes, your caller is spot on. That is absolutely correct. And that's what I'm saying. Right now, all of our retirement savings, that's Social Security, that's our collective savings for retirement, is being gutted. It's being defunded. And we each day are going into debt because of what the current president is doing. And indeed, if this continues, they'll defund Social Security. They don't believe in Social Security. That's a common good. I will defend and expand Social Security.
We have a text question here. Will you support the right to life?
I absolutely reverence life. Where I come down on that, and this is important to know, I reverence life, and the way that we reverence life is we reverence women. And if you look at the root cause of abortion, the root causes are poverty, so unjust economic policies, the lack of access to health care, and violence against women. This nation needs to put its money where its mouth is. And I'll be a legislator who will be from the floor of Congress reverencing life and promoting the health and well-being of women. When you do that, the life of the unborn flourish. It's not an either or. And the mistake is this issue has been misframed. And some people will say, well, you're either pro-life or you're not. Jackie's going to say she's pro-life. Actually, you take a look at all of my positions, I am much more reverent of life than Jackie Walorski, who from a healthcare perspective will take away health care from a family with an infant and a preemie in the NICU even before they're out of that NICU. So, yes, I reverence life. I think this issue has been misframed. And I think part of that is we reverence women and their own health care decisions and the unborn. It's not an either or.
All right, let's get to another caller. We've got about 5 to 7 minutes left on the show. With us today, we have Pat Hackett, candidate for the United States Congress in the Indiana 2nd District. Hello, you're on Sound Off. How are you? Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, you're on Sound Off. Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, how are you?
Good.
Listen, I've got a couple points I want to ask about, and I hope I'm allowed to ask those questions to the full extent. Really, seriously, how do you feel about staying in the Democratic Party on some of the obvious things that are going on, especially through this summer? Now, I heard you bring up Social Security. However, all the candidates for president all raised their hand and said they would support a huge financially to help illegal immigrants in this country. Okay, that would be a huge blow to money that we could use for Social Security, as if we don't have enough problems with Social Security already. So how can you stay in a party that advocates getting a lot of money to these illegal aliens that aren't even supposed to be here? Okay, that money could be used for that Social Security you were just talking about.
All right. So the question is then that the caller had was the Social Security, illegal immigrants, these kind of things. What is your take on that?
I think I'll focus, probably what would be most helpful is just immigration. There is bipartisan support. There was for responsible immigration reform. We are a nation where all of us came one of three ways to this nation. We are immigrants, or our ancestors came in slave ships, or our ancestors were on the land that was taken from them. That's the United States of America. And part of the reason immigration is such a challenge right now is because Congress hasn't had a moral spine for a long time. And immigration reform has been talked about since the 1980s. And now we have over 11 million people in this nation who are undocumented and in circumstances, many contributing deeply to the farm agricultural life in our community, our manufacturing life, our higher education. So I support responsible immigration reform. The majority of immigrants to this nation are good people. There are ways we can address those who pose a threat to the nation. They are by no means the minority, and we need to address the catastrophe that Congress itself created. We have good people who are immigrants to this nation, some many, many years ago, some more newly immigrants. But what I do oppose are the crimes against humanity on our southern border happening right now, separating children from their parents, caging them. Those are not American values. Those are not pro-life values, and we are better than this.
Just a couple minutes left. We do have a couple more texts coming in. Lots of interaction today. Lots of people excited to talk to you. What is your view on affordable health care?
I absolutely support the Affordable Care Act, the ACA. I believe that health care is a right, not a privilege. Here's another big difference between Jackie Walorski and myself. I would move towards health care for all, not the few. Jackie has voted 60 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act. What that means is 60 times. That's a very deliberate act. I'm a lawyer. I know when you do something 60 times, you mean it. And what she's done 60 times is she will reimpose the exclusion of health care if you have a pre-existing condition. She will reestablish lifetime caps. So when she says she reverences life, I don't buy it when you don't provide health care. And we see it in COVID-19 right now, how important that we all have health care. All of you who have lost work and have lost your health care, you understand how much health care is a right, not a privilege.
Let's get to one final caller, and if you can make it real quick, what's your question for Pat Hackett?
Thank you, Pat. Hey, it's funny. I remember that term, a licensed liar. Oh, my God. Real quick, the Social Security Act is going to drop 25% in 2034. That was based on Barack Obama and the Democrats that came in 2008. That is the law. Now it's even going to be worse because of the COVID virus and no money coming in. So we have to set the record straight where we're at and where we're going. So I hope you're going to do better on your questions and answers in the next round. But are you for the new Green Deal that's costing us? You shut down a coal plant. We have to build 2 natural gas plants to make up for the coal plant because it does not execute the amount of energy that clean burning fuels do. So the existing coal plants, we'd have to take 1 down. You're going to have to build 2 new.
All right. Are you for the Green New Deal?
I am for the principles of the Green New Deal, but it's not an either-or. That's another false wedge issue. I think that, for example, infrastructure rebuild, we have to have organized labor at the table, we have to have entrepreneurs at the table, and we also have to not deny the reality of climate change. And we can do all of that. Mm-hmm. We're a bright country. We're smart enough, and we should be leading. And I am committed to evidence, science, and reason. Part of the reason we have the catastrophe this caller mentioned is because of the denial of evidence, science, and reason. We should have COVID-19 under control in this nation. The reason we don't is we don't have a coherent national policy. So I understand that he may disagree with what I say. I'm speaking authentically and truthfully, and it's okay in a democracy to disagree. We need to be good with one another and hold each other accountable.
All right, final word for you, Pat Hackett. Welcome. Thank you so much for the show. How can people get a hold of you?
This is great. And again, Nate, thank you so much for the privilege. And all of you who joined us, I really appreciate your time today. You can contact me through my website, PatHackettForCongress.com. You are welcome to sign up if you want to work with us. We've got lots of volunteer opportunities from your homes. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much for listening. And we'll be back on Monday at 12:30 right here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for joining us and voicing your opinion on this edition of Sound Off. The views on Sound Off are those of the host or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. Sound Off airs every Monday and Friday at 12:30. Please mark your calendar and join us again for the next edition of Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for joining us for the Sound Off podcast on 96.7theeagle.com.